JJ.
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself. I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome on in, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. Thanks for being with us on the program. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry here. Jeremiah Jensen to my right. Thank you for being a part of the program. Our producer, Alex Napolis, hitting all the buttons as usual back in our Salt Lake studios. We're anticipating a conversation with Mitch Harper, our BYU Cougars insider for KSLSports.com. We are here at the Spring RV Super Show at Mountain America Expo Center here in Sandy. JJ, it seems like it was only a couple of short weeks ago that we were here talking about RVs. In fact, it was exactly a couple of weeks ago.
That's right, it was.
That we were here for, and we were chatting about RVs. So,
and I'm cool with that. It's
here we
always
are
fun.
Yeah, getting tempted by the fifth wheels.
The technology is fascinating.
Yeah, and again, they park the ones in front of us that they're like, wouldn't it be nice if you had this?
It's interesting the placement they put these
Why don't you talk to your wife about it?
The expensive ones they want to have talked about are right,
right
here in front of us.
Really nice stuff. And so if you want to come down this weekend and check out the RV of your dreams, you could do it. Multiple dealers across multiple areas here. It's one of those shows that, of course, every square inch of this place is covered in RVs. And so it's really fun to be able to come down a couple times a year and chat about these RVs and to watch husbands try their darndest to convince their wives.
It's not always the husband.
Both. I'm just saying couples trying to convince one another.
There you go.
I think 280 months is reasonable of a payment plan. Why not? So we're
don't look at the interest rate.
No.
There's great deals right now. In fact, last time we were here,
they back up. They bring them down for this show.
They were able to bring them down. Best deals of the year, and we're going to do it again today. So head on down.
All right, we're here all day. We're going to keep you up to date. I do lament a little bit having to hear everybody talk about the barbecue at Kenny J's today was a little bit of a slap in the face.
A little jealous.
But we've been there. We've done it before.
Yeah.
We miss Kenny. We miss the brisket especially.
Kenny, we want to come too. Let us,
I know.
us, Kenny.
We had to hang out here. And look, it's fine.
Starving for some brisket. Right?
Oh, quit it.
Come on, Kenny, hook me up.
That's gonna be the last time we mention brisket the rest of the show. Now there's a
moratorium. It's going to come up on every
moratorium on brisket.
Every guest is going to ask about it. Mitch Harper's going to ask us about.
Let's kick off the show here officially with the top of the hour. It's the cut. Let's jump right to it.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Joining us on the program right now, he is Mitch Harper, BYU Cougars insider for KSLSports.com. He's in Portland covering the BYU-Texas matchup, of course, going on tonight. And everybody's brackets are all filled out. You can't turn them in late. They don't accept the late work anymore, okay? And Mitch is going to give us a little bit of some insight here. Mitch, what's Portland like, man? Everything copacetic up there? Is there a sea of blue that is about to attack this arena?
Are the 90s still alive? That's what I want to know.
That's true.
Yes, there is a good number of BYU fans here in the first session here at the NCAA Tournament, but you bring up brisket. I just had a brisket burrito here at the Moda Center, so it's like I had to bring that up when you guys were. It was pretty good, but yeah, I think it'll be good.
A little bit different when it's the Cisco Foods version of the brisket burrito.
There's worse breakfast burrito meats.
It's fine. Anyway, we digress as usual into food, but we saw this game that Texas had. It was a close one against NC State. I can only feel like teams benefit a ton from having that game in Dayton. Now, going from Dayton over to Portland is not a short trip. However, Texas has the advantage of kind of having their wits about them because they played in a close game already in the first four.
They have, and 12 teams since 2011 have gone from the first four to the round of 32. 5 of those teams have reached the Sweet 16, and one of those teams that got that far was UCLA, the last one to do it, to reach the Sweet 16 from the first four, and they beat BYU to get things rolling in the round of 64. But I do think that, Texas, they arrived here yesterday in Portland around 6:30 a.m. local time. So it was a quick, crazy turnaround. They had a game winner against NC State. Then they travel 3 time zones to the west and are out here in Portland. And what was crazy was yesterday here at the Moda Center, Texas was on time for everything, and meanwhile BYU was late to some of their scheduled times. And I bring that up because here at the NCAA Tournament, everything is to the second, how they time things out with their schedule. And I just thought that was kind of interesting, considering Texas was just hours removed from a game winner, and they traveled that far, and they were ready to roll. But, BYU will have the task in front of them to try to be, ready for this game today. And I think that, BYU's the better team, but both of these teams have been up and down, and you just kind of don't know what you're going to get from either one of these teams. And sometimes that first tournament game can be the toughest, and Texas has already got that in their rearview mirror.
Yeah, High Point reminded us today that anybody can win in the NCAA tournament, and Siena almost got Duke today, a 1 seed again. So you never know, and it's anything can happen. That said, you're right. BYU on paper is the better team than Texas. What are Texas's weaknesses and what are their strengths as you've been studying them preparing for this game?
Well, I think their strength is rebounding the basketball. Even with their star player Dalen Swain and then their center Matas Titus, they've been really good on the glass. They had a plus 12 advantage rebounding the basketball against NC State. And talking with BYU players yesterday here in the locker room at the Moda Center, they even said that they've got to be aggressive rebounding the basketball and win that aspect of the game. So I think that's going to be important. I think also with Texas, it's been a mixed bag this year defensively for them. They've had 6 games where they've scored 80 points, and you think that's put you in a position to win games, but they've lost those games. So this is a team that, like BYU, can get up and down the floor and give up a lot of points. So this could be a high-scoring game, and maybe Texas reverts back to maybe some of the averages because they had probably their best defensive performance of the season in the first 4 win over NC State. Even Sean Miller said that was the first time this year where they've won a game because of their defense. So maybe the averages kind of go back to what they typically have been, and that's been an offensive team, whereas BYU feels really confident about their defense. And I think, one of the things that I'm looking for in this game from BYU is, can they be, maybe an enforcer on the defensive end? And I point to that because in Kansas City, even against Houston, there were times where they made Houston uncomfortable. And I thought that was noteworthy because, Houston is so synonymous with just, sucking the life out of teams because of the way that they play defensively. And BYU style defensively, which has been the simplistic approach that Kevin Young has incorporated since that East Coast debacle that they had against Cincinnati and West Virginia, they were pretty aggressive against Houston, where Houston only made 5 threes in that game. So can BYU maybe set the tone on the defensive end? I think that could be huge in this one because Texas trusts its offense. They're riding high defensively, but that's not typically who they've been, whereas BYU has stacked up a few games where defensively they've looked a lot better than they've been.
Kevin Young in year 1, obviously, they were on quite the run. They did exceptionally in Big 12 play, certainly overperformed, I think, a lot of what people expected out of BYU last year. Kevin Young goes to his first tournament appearance as the head coach in his first year and goes to the Sweet 16. Following that up is not an easy task, and in fact, there's been so much of that pressure that's been added to KY because of the roster, how much money is spent on it, superstar AJ DeBonta, who continues to be a superstar. What's year 2 Kevin Young look like to you right now at the tournament? Does he seem more – he does seem like a cat who just is always pretty even-keeled regardless of what's going on. But what do you see out of Kevin Young year 2? Do you feel like that pressure's maybe ramped up more and he's feeling that? Or I would imagine that pressure at the NCAA tournament is always going to be there.
It's always there. I do get the sense, though, he's a little more loose because he knows all the different things that go through the Wednesday protocols. We know them, like the behind-the-scenes stuff with the interviews with TNT, CBS, and then doing the dais, the podium, the locker room, all these different things, just kind of that workflow. I think he knew it already. He'd been around the NCAA tournament, and Kevin Young's pretty candid about the fact that he's still learning college basketball and kind of getting used to everything. But this year, you have seen where he's felt a little bit more comfortable the routines of what goes on at these events. I mean, this is already his fourth game in March Madness. He's already got a 2-1 mark, and he's got a chance to lead BYU to back-to-back, years with wins in the NCAA tournament, which, even though this is a new era of BYU and what he's done to build it up, but for people that have followed BYU for a long time, they know that doesn't happen often, getting years of opportunities for back-to-back victories in the NCAA tournament, back-to-back years, rather. So I think he feels a little more comfortable. I think he's just, really taken on an approach with this team where he's not trying to overthink it. So when he talks about this simple approach, I think that, it was kind of difficult where he's had a player in A.J. DeBonsa that's kind of in Kevin Young's wheelhouse, where he can teach these super advanced terms and ways of going about scouting reports and game plans to the likes of, Kevin Durant and players that he's been around in the NBA. But then you got a rest of the locker room that's still college guys, and you still got to develop them. And, I just think that it was almost like too much, and he's kind of simplified things, almost taken a page from what he did last year. I remember going into last season when I asked him about, how is he going to coach college players compared to NBA guys? And he just said, basically assume they know nothing. And I feel like that's a little bit of the case here for this team down the stretch. I think they've played better. I think they felt more loose, and they kind of found themselves a little bit after that Richie Saunders injury. Still, I think that there's questions to be had about how this team gets wins away from the Marriott Center against good teams. Texas isn't great, but they're still a good team. They're much better than K-State and West Virginia were in the Big 12 tournament. So it'll be interesting to see how, Kevin Young's second year looks here in this stage once again. But he does seem a little more loose than what he was last year.
A.J. DeBonsa will be the best player on the floor tonight. He'll be the best player on the floor in just about any matchup that BYU has in this tournament that I can see moving forward, even if they get beyond the round of 16. With that said, what kind of attention is he getting in Portland? I know there's a lot of national interest in him as potentially being the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and he's got that star quality about him as well. How much attention is he getting in Portland?
He's getting a lot, and, he has a big focal point. It's interesting, this whole entire BYU team, they're going to arrive here in about 12 minutes, so 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time, 2:30 Pacific. They'll get here to the Moda Center. But everywhere they go, and in large part A.J. DeBonsa, they've got a camera crew following them, and it's, CBS March Madness. They're doing a behind-the-scenes look at BYU. So everywhere you go with A.J., he's got a lens in front of him. And so it's been different to see. I mean, it's been different this whole year to cover him and just think that maybe a face of the NBA is at BYU. Just, that's just, you never thought you'd be saying things like that. But there's a lot of interest. I mean, even the national media, the local media, waiting outside the locker room yesterday, it was probably the biggest gathering of local media for a particular team that's here in Portland. It wasn't, Arkansas. It was BYU. So, again, that just speaks to what type of star power he brings. And that's what, March Madness is great. You love the upsets, you love the Cinderellas, but you also love the stars looking and performing like the star power that they have. And AJ's got his chance to make his debut in this stage. And, can he join the ranks of the Carmelo Anthonys, the Derrick Roses, the Anthony Davises, great freshmen who have led their teams and put the team on their back to great heights, because that's what he needs to do. He needs to score at least 30 points per game in this tournament. He is more than capable. I mean, heck, he could score 40 points. He's 45 points away from setting the freshman record for most points scored by a freshman in a season since 2000. He could pass Kevin Durant and do it against Kevin Durant's alma mater potentially. So AJ has been spectacular to this point, and I would expect nothing less. And he has not let the spotlight get to him and affect him on the court, which has been pretty impressive because he's always in the spotlight.
Leaning on, obviously, A.J. DeBonsa, and, I'm with you, Mitch. I think there's a guy, I think he loves the attention. He's had it his whole life, basically since being an early prep and getting all this, and he has risen to the occasion. Like, he just shows up for all of this on top of the crazy physicality. He seems to have an amazing, mature brain on him, too, for a really young athlete. That's the only way you're able to accomplish the stuff that you are. He, Rob Wright, you know what you're getting with those guys. It seemed like in those two games that they won at the Big 12 tournament, there were guys showing up who are the guys who you'd prefer to see show up, so to speak, in this game against Texas, or maybe even the next couple of games, so that BYU could make a similar run that they did last year, maybe even further?
Kennard Davis, one, he has to step up. He was 13 of 25 in that 3-game win streak from three-point range against Texas Tech, K-State, and West Virginia. He was 0-5 against Houston from three-point range. BYU's 9-2 in games this year where he hits at least 2 3-pointers. So that's got to show up again here today. I think also Keba Keita, I think we forget, and I kind of reminded myself of this kind of going through studying, getting ready for the tournament. Keita led the NCAA tournament last year in blocks per game. He had about 2.5 blocks, so he was excellent in rim protection last year in this tournament. He's got to show up. And I think with him, too, not only the defensive end, but trying to get him going early on the offensive end, because it feels like when Keita is part of the offense, it just helps him defensively too. And I think actively looking for him on some alley-oops, giving him some, if he gets a putback opportunity, he's got to finish and complete that, because he is such a difference maker for BYU. So those two guys, and then maybe, also an under-the-radar guy is Alexei Kostic. Talking with him yesterday here in Portland, and kind of getting a sense of how he's enjoying now being a starter. I mean, he's quietly been in the starting 5 for BYU the last handful of games where they've felt like they've turned the corner and playing some of their best basketball of the season, according to Kevin Young, and he's been part of that. And he feels really confident in his game, and he's not hesitant to, put up shots and put up attempts in clutch moments. You saw that against Houston. So I think Kostic is also one to watch, but if BYU's got to have that supporting cast show up, because that AJ will, on the low end, get you 28 points at least. And I'm curious to see how maybe the officials call the game with AJ today. We'll find out what the officials are, who they are, if they're familiar with AJ or not, because that could be something that's an interesting tidbit in this game. But that AJ is going to probably get at least 28. It's then that supporting cast, can they step up and give you another 15 to 20? Rob Wright probably gives you another 15 to 20 as well. So that'll be interesting to see from an offensive standpoint, and what they also bring defensively as well.
Kevin Young had to make some adjustments when things were not going well for BYU, and then starting with that Texas Tech game, this looks like a completely different team. Even in the loss against Houston, they were very competitive against a team that could win the national championship. BYU has looked much better. What are some of the things that Kevin Young did to help BYU improve and figure some things out during that stretch that hopefully for the Cougars can extend into the NCAA tournament?
I think one of the big things, JJ, was on the defensive end. I think they've been more physical. I think they've also been more engaged. I thought coming out of that Cincinnati and West Virginia road trip where they lost both of those games, and that was on the heels of that disastrous loss to UCF, it was kind of a moment for that team to really figure out what do they want the season to become, because easily the floor could have fallen out on this group. But they kind of circled the wagons there at that moment, and that led to the win over Texas Tech, and then much improved play in Kansas City. I think that, defensively, again, they've been more physical. There were not as many blow-bys against even a Houston, where they were their on-ball defense was much improved from where it had been earlier this year. And I think a big reason for that, too, and where you've seen that growth, is Rob Wright. There were stretches in Big 12 play where you just kind of wonder defensively, where's Rob Wright at? And I thought he's brought, great intensity on the defensive end for this BYU team. And he did that with a lacerated lip and had to get dental work done. And he's even said this week that he's still got a wire in his mouth that kind of bothers him a little bit, but he'll be good to go for today against Texas. But I just think that's maybe been the biggest change. Is just that they've been bringing better effort. And I think that, this BYU team's kind of interesting. It's a lot like an NBA team with what Kevin Young's been around, where it almost felt like it was almost like there was a stretch there in Big 12 play where it felt like They just knew, okay, we're going to the NCAA tournament. We're out of the mix for the Big 12 championship. It was almost like the whole cliche turn on the switch type moment for some of the really good teams. It kind of felt like that in stretches for this BYU team, where they were almost not as engaged because they knew they kind of knew what their fate was going to be. We all circled Portland. We all kind of circled a 6th seed, and that's what it ended up being. And so I kind of got a sense of that too, and I think that this group seems to really step up to these big stage opportunities. You saw that in Kansas City, and I think this is obviously the biggest of stages. They're 8-2 in games this year on neutral floors. They played at a lot of NBA venues, so they're used to this. So I think that's kind of a piece too to where you've seen the improved play, where they almost kind of flipped the switch a little bit, knew what was on the horizon.
Mitch Harper, BYU insider for KSLSports.com. Mitch, have fun over there. I'm glad to hear you got some brisket going on, although Portland's not necessarily known for the brisket. So we'll leave it there. And, man, I hope we can keep having you on for the next couple of days here, because a nice little weekend run would be fun from BYU. Getting to the second weekend would be even more fun as well. And I'm certain your family would be really appreciative of just more weeks of you.
Less
gone.
Mitch at home.
Less Mitch taking on more BYU stuff during this. But, that's the job, and it's a fun one. So thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Hey, I always appreciate hopping on, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.
Have fun out there.
There you go. Mitch Harper, everybody. All right, we're going to take a break. Our first break. Take a break. We'll come back. We have more to go around the corner. It is your Utah Spring RV Super Show here at Mountain America Expo Center. When we come back, we've got more to chat about here, of course, not just in NCAA. Yes, the reason my 2.5-year-old is leading the bracket in our home. Stay with us, 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on the Zone. This is JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen. Thanks for being with us on the program today. We are at the Mountain America Expo Center here in Sandy. You've got yourself the Utah RV Spring Super Show. And I told you right before we went to the break here, JJ, that my almost 3 years old, I don't want to short her because, saying that she's only 2, that cheapens the deal. She's a lot older and wiser now. She's going to be 3 in a couple weeks. And Piper's leading the family bracket right now. My wife is in dead last. I'm in 3rd from last. So
Piper picked High Point.
Piper picked HPU.
How about that?
I know. Here's the thing about the brackets, of course, is as soon as you start going through all this, and so Vandy, by the way, finished it off with McNeese. Duke came back with a 6-point win over Siena. They were trailing Siena. The vast majority.
They were down 11 to Siena.
Would that have been – I can't remember if Virginia was the number 1 overall seed when they lost.
They were,
right?
So there's been 2 number 1 seeds all time that have lost. Virginia was the first against UMBC, and then Mike Fulton's Purdue Boilermakers got upset by Fairleigh Dickinson.
But I remember Virginia. I remember Tony Bennett's squad was like the number 1 overall seed too, and we were all like, oh boy. Duke, I think, would have been a bigger hit. I don't know if there's – by the way, they're the one that is picked to win most brackets.
Yes.
According to all the bracketologists, all the brackets that have been thrown in there. Duke has the highest rate of being picked as national champion, and followed by Arizona. But today, TCU eked out a win against Ohio State. That one got close late. That was a fun game to watch. Nebraska blew out Troy. Louisville gets the win over South Florida in that 6-11 matchup. High Point was your 12-5 upset. We usually get 1 or 2 of those, and it came early in this round of the NCAA tournament, the very first of 5-12 being played. You had High Point 83, Wisconsin 82. So Wisconsin outed last year by BYU in the round of 32, and outed this year in round 1 by High Point University. So Duke escapes Siena, like I said. Vandy gets the win over McNeese. Hawaii right now trailing by nearly 20 against a very, very tough Arkansas team that just got into the second half. Michigan State also up 22 over North Dakota State. So listen, this is one of my favorite times of the year. I think about I think the best time for following the NCAA tournament was college. It's fun to skip stuff on work. It's fun to have the
when you can stay home from something and just watch hoop,
dude. That's nice. That's a nice feeling.
We had nothing going on in college, and we were just on a beanbag watching games.
That's good. That's a good time.
That's how you get this thing done. So, yes, we are. we're definitely watching this thing as we see how, these brackets start to round out, and obviously we have our eyes firmly planted on San Diego, where Utah State's going to be tomorrow in their game, and then BYU tonight, of course, in Portland for that 5:00-ish tip-off. It was interesting to hear that BYU showed up late to a couple things. Is that a Mormon Standard Time situation for
of course,
Kevin Young?
Yeah, I'm sure they had refreshments afterwards.
Orange juice and donuts does the body good. So there you go. Let me see here, JJ. As you see the breakdown here, and you see some of these teams who are already getting outed, you see some teams show up and they're just ready.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the moments that you're going to have over the next few days is who's going to be that team. It just seems to be happening more and more, not just because there have been in recent memory. I mean, 16-1 was never going to be an option. As soon as UMBC broke the seal on that, it didn't take much longer for the second version of that. It just seems like we have not just higher seeds getting upsets in the first round. They seem to go maybe even you might have your 13-14s getting to the Sweet 16, which we've seen a couple of over the years. Does it seem like it's just me, or does that happen more often than we saw growing up?
No, actually, I think it's you're seeing less upsets.
Okay.
Just look at today. So we had one. It was a big one. High Point beating Wisconsin is a big upset. But because of the style of play Wisconsin plays and some of their deficiencies, a lot of experts picked High Point to be that team, that 12-5 upset. I thought South Florida would give Louisville a run. They did, but they didn't get over the hump. I mean, TCU over Ohio State's really not an upset. In fact, I'd say that the Big 12 prepared TCU for this tournament. They should have won that game, and they did. But I look at the game so far. Louisville wins. I mean, Nebraska 76-47 over
they
Troy.
Won by 30.
Nebraska had never won an NCAA tournament game until today.
Wait, whoa. Hold the phone.
You didn't know that?
That's their first NCAA tournament win?
Yeah, they've never won an NCAA tournament game.
I mean, there are basketball schools and football schools.
They are the most football school ever because they've never won an NCAA tournament game.
Never. Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that wild? And they're a 4-seed this year.
That seems crazy.
And I think they have a chance to get to the Elite Eight. They're that good.
I remember when we won our first NCAA tournament game as a program back in 2026.
They'll talk about this in Lincoln forever.
I mean, yeah. Hey, look, they need something because the football team ain't doing it.
They rolled. Duke had a scare, but they end up winning. Vanderbilt had a scare, but they end up winning by 10. I'm going through all these games, and right now, Arkansas is crushing Hawaii by double digits. Michigan State's up 23 over North Dakota State. So where are the upsets? Last year, we had a lot less upsets. Last year's Final Four was chalk. So
right.
There has been the crazier upset here and there, like the 16s finally beating the one.
You're St. Peter's, you're Florida Gulf Coast. Those are the most recent memory of deep runs.
And those are 10 plus years ago now.
Right.
You're seeing a lot less double-digit seeds get wins, and when they're wins, it's those 11-6, which the gap between a 6 seed and 11 seed, let's be honest, is not really that great.
Yeah, 12-5 used to be the one that I think we'd look at, and we'd wait for one or two of those every year. 11-6 almost. I mean, 10-7 we don't even look at like it's a gap in the seeding, and 6-11 has kind of become that way
because there is more parity. While the power teams are bigger and better, which is creating a gap between the haves and the have-nots. There's a lot more parity and a lot more depth in college basketball. Teams that are good because the talent is being spread out because of NIL. Look at BYU is a perfect example of that. I just mentioned Nebraska. Nebraska can win basketball now because they have NIL to offer. They can build a team. Vanderbilt, another example. So there are teams in this tournament that never would have been in the tournament or never would have had a chance, and now they can get to the second weekend because they have the funds to do it.
Let's take another break here. I've got a Would You Rather right around the corner. Top of the hour, former Aggie great J.C. Carroll is going to join the program. Anytime J.C. Carroll pops in, talk about guys who have been key to program success. I'm sure guys like JC are absolutely tickled to watch what Utah State does year in and year out now because they've become just an automatic almost. And obviously Jared Calhoun has led this team this year to a 9 seed, and they're going to play Villanova tomorrow. We'll see what J.C. Carroll has to say about that when we're coming up here. Around the corner, though, I've got a Would You Rather. It's a tournament edition of Would You Rather. We're here at the RV Super Show, the Spring RV Super Show here at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. Come take a look at all your RVs, the RVs of your dreams. Let's do it. More to go right around the corner, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back, everybody. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. It's the fall. Fall. We're in the spring now. This is the Spring RV Super Show at the Mountain America Expo Center here in Sandy. We're going to chat with Zach from General RV momentarily. We've spoken with Zach many times. We've spoken with General RV many times. And if you want to get a Dell done, it's going to be through Zach, all right? So bring it on down here. We'll
Lots of Dells.
Lots of Dells to be had here. I've got a Would You Rather on a tournament edition. Siena was this close to being an absolute crazy shock over Duke. They ended up losing by 6, but they were up double digits at the half over Duke. They were leading most of the second half even over Duke.
Crazy.
Scary for John Shire's guys, but, the guys who are supposed to win most of these brackets. Would you rather be the 16 seed upsetting a 1 seed? Or, that 10 seed that ends up making a nice little run and wins 2 and goes to the Sweet 16?
Well, you want to be the Sweet 16, and if you're a 10 seed, that means you're a better program. It's really hard for any 16 seed to have sustained success.
Yeah, but look, everyone will remember you as you made
history, but
what is Siena? Is that a dog of some kind?
The Saints. Aren't they the Saints?
Well, there's a dog in there.
By the way, you know who Siena's head coach is?
Who is it?
It is the Siena Saints. Jerry McNamara. Does that name ring a
Syracuse
bell?
Syracuse fan.
Yes, beat BYU in the NCAA tournament back about 20 years ago.
Was that
20 plus years ago.
Was that Melo's freshman year too? When they
no,
that was it was just before
that was way post Melo.
No,
not too much. Melo was 02-03. They were like year, I believe.
Yeah.
McNamara played with Melo in college.
McNamara hit how many threes in that game against BYU?
It felt like 20.
Yeah, wild.
By the way, Syracuse has a job opening right now, so don't be surprised to hear that Jerry McNamara is the new head coach.
One of Boeheim's greats comes in and figures it out. Siena, by the way. Why is it a dog, but they're the Saints? I don't get it. Either way, I get it. I got what
Google that one.
I got what your argument was. All right, we'll take another break here. When we come back, we're going to jam on this other side here with J.C. Carroll. J.C., of course, of legendary Aggie fame. I don't know. You think about top Aggies of all time. We'll have this discussion right now before we have J.C.
Sure. He's on the Mount Rushmore.
That's what I was going to say. Where's he on this? You got your Sam Merrills, you got your J.C. Carrolls. I'm trying to think of people you'd also want to have join that group there. And maybe you're partial to like
Wayne Estes has got to be on there too.
Okay.
So I think you hit it. I think you go Wayne Estes, J.C. Carroll, Sam Merrill, and then that fourth one is kind of up for debate.
Okay. But J.C. Carroll, one of the sharpest shooters we've ever seen in these
How about
parts.
Neemias Queta?
Now, Queta's interesting too because of how awesome he is, but then also because of how he's starting to show up and be a dude now.
Now he's going to be in the NBA, not only an NBA player, but an NBA starter.
He's going to
on a contender.
Yes, and he'll get a big contract on his next one, and so that's a great story as well. All right. We'll come back and we'll chat with J.C. Carroll around the corner, and we'll get you ready for the rest of the program here, and we'll get you set for the NCAA tournament the rest of the way as well. Anytime that there's a close game that we can dip into with Westwood 1, we're going to do it. So stay dialed in right here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.